Does your period hurt? Yeah, same here. When I'm curled up in pain, unable to move, I can't stop thinking why.
Why does it hurt this much? Why do we have to even go through this? What's the actual purpose of menstruation? So like any curious and suffering person, I would end up deep in a YouTube rabbit hole, searching for answers. But luckily, I don't do that anymore because now I have my progestin pill. You see, your two major ovarian hormones control the menstrual cycle: estrogen and progesterone. In each menstrual cycle, these hormones trigger the cell division in the base layer of uterine lining, causing the growth of connective tissue cells, support cells, and gland cells. These cells are collectively called the endometrium cells. These endometrium cells divide by, of course, mitosis. For demonstration purposes, now let's look at mitosis happening in actively growing garlic root tip cells. Mitosis has arbitrary 4 phases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. During the various phases of the mitosis, the chromosomes can be observed to tell specific stages the cells are at. Prophase. This is where mitosis officially begins. Chromatin condenses into structures called chromosomes and becomes visible. Each chromosome consists of 2 sister chromatids, and these sister chromatids are held together by the centromere. While the chromatins are condensing, a structure called centrosomes start moving to the opposite poles of the cell and starts building the mitotic microtubule spindle fibers. Metaphase. Each chromosomes have a structure called kinetochores on their centromeres, and the microtubule spindle fibers from the centrosomes attach to the kinetochores. Cells line up on the equator of the cell on the line called the metaphase plate. Anaphase. The spindle fibers start to shorten, causing the sister chromatids to separate. The sister chromatids are pulled to the opposite poles of the cell. Telophase. The chromosomes are now at opposite sides of the cell and the nuclear membranes start to reform. The chromatins also start to decondense. At last, mitosis is followed by cytokinesis, which is the division of the cytoplasm. In animal cells, a contractile ring forms a cleavage furrow and pinches the cells into 2, forming a genetically identical 2 daughter cells. In plants, however, instead of cell furrow, cell plate forms and eventually joins with the plasma membrane separating the daughter cells. The endometrium also develops a rich blood supply before being shed if pregnancy doesn't occur. Now, imagine that these endometrium cells start dividing in abnormal places such as the oviduct, ovary, or large intestine by somehow migrating to those places. This is what happens in a disorder called endometriosis, and it is a prevalent gynecological condition that affects up to 10% of women in reproductive age. Like the uterine endometrium, these cells swell and break down during each ovarian cycle, resulting in pelvic pain and bleeding into the abdomen. However, despite more than a century of research, the causes of endometriosis still evade scientific consensus, with no single proposed pathophysiological or molecular mechanism able to explain all cases. Progestin is the synthetic form of progesterone, and it is often given as a hormonal therapy for treating endometriosis. But how? It influences the body in many ways. One way is it directly acts on the endometrial cells by slowing their cellular division or stopping it. It arrests the cell cycle of the endometrium cells and the other lesions before mitosis even takes place. So it prevents cell proliferation. This prevents the lesions from expanding and causing further damage. It can also work by suppressing estrogen production by inhibiting the secretion of other chemicals that cause the secretion of estrogen. Overall, the main thing is Lower estrogen level means less stimulation to the endometriotic tissue, which eventually shrinks the lesions over time, and that's pretty cool. However, it still causes weight gain as well as mood changes. Also, in recent years, studies have been gathering to suggest that the differential epigenetic regulations contribute to the pathogenesis of endometriosis. And because epigenetic modifications are reversible, there are reasonable possibilities for therapeutic targeted at epigenetic mechanisms that have been supported by findings of preclinical studies, opening new doors for treatment that could lead to more targeted and effective therapies and hopefully a possible better alternative for progestin.